Okay, think about this. 20 years ago in China, owning a car, that was like a huge deal, a major life goal.
Absolutely. A real status symbol.
But now, fast forward to today, especially in the big cities, and you see younger folks, they're all about public transport, ride-sharing apps. It's just easier, maybe?
It's a massive shift.
Yeah.
And it tells you something much bigger about how the whole Chinese consumer market has just transformed
Yeah.
incredibly quickly.
Which makes the story of foreign companies trying to break in or even just stay afloat really interesting.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because some of the biggest global names have found it, well, incredibly tough. We're going to dive into that today. We'll look at brands like Forever 21, Amazon, even Carrefour.
Science, really. Global successes, but they stumbled in China.
They did. And we'll also look at Starbucks.
Mm.
They had some early issues too, but they kind of figured it out. They adapted.
So, what's the main thread here? What are we trying to unpack in this deep dive?
Fundamentally, it's this clash, the tension between a company's big global way of doing things and the very specific, very fast-moving reality on the ground in China.
Global versus local, basically.
Exactly. So our mission today is to figure out why some of these huge international players falter and maybe what others, like Starbucks, did right. We're basing this on an article that really digs into these challenges.
Oh, okay, sounds good. Let's start with Forever 21. I remember them being huge for a bit. Part of that whole fast fashion wave with Zara and
Oh,
H&M.
for sure. They were definitely one of the fast fashion big three for a while, tapped right into that trend.
But then they just disappeared pretty quickly, right?
Shockingly fast. By April 2019, they were completely gone. Closed their flagship store on Nanjing Road in Shanghai Prime Real Estate. Reports said the final sales were kind of chaotic.
Wow. So what went wrong? What's the core reason they crashed so hard?
Well, the article we looked at really zeroes in on one key thing. They just didn't keep up. The Chinese consumer was changing incredibly fast, and Forever 21 didn't change with them.
Okay, break that down. What kind of changes are we talking about?
It's really about generations. You had the 80A people born in the 80s who grew up as China was really opening up economically. For many of them, this idea of consumption equals happiness was pretty strong.
Right, they were the ones buying into fast fashion, trendy, affordable stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then came the ZU, the post-95 generation. They grew up in a different China, more digital, more economically stable maybe.
And their values are different.
Very different, according to the analysis. They seem to put more emphasis on things like well-being, sustainability, self-improvement, like education or experiences, rather than just buying more stuff.
So for them, maybe endless cheap clothes didn't seem so cool anymore.
That seems to be the gist of it. Fast fashion started to feel a bit out of step. And Forever 21, they basically kept marketing to that older ADA mindset.
Well, the ground was shifting beneath them towards the zoo.
Precisely. And you look at their competitors. Zara managed it better, kind of mixing trendy stuff with basics. Uniqlo doubled down on quality basics, but still brought in some trends. They did okay, even grew with the ZO.
Because they offered something different, something that maybe aligned better with those newer values.
Yeah, it seems that way. Uniqlo's focus on practicality, maybe durability, resonated more. Forever 21 just didn't pivot. They stuck to their original formula, and their customers either grew up or moved on to brands that felt more relevant.
Okay, so lesson one. You absolutely have to keep your finger on the pulse of changing consumer values. Makes sense. Let's switch gears to Amazon. Global e-commerce king, right? But China, not so much.
Yeah, it's a classic case study, really. Amazon's global reach is staggering. I think their estimated GMV, gross merchandise volume, was around $335 billion in 2019. Huge number.
Right.
But in China, they eventually had to pull back their main e-commerce operations. And just to give you some scale, Alibaba, mostly focused just on China, had a GMV that same year that was roughly double Amazon's global figure, something like 5.7 trillion RMB.
Wow. That's dominance. So Amazon's usual playbook didn't work. What was their strategy?
Well, globally, Amazon builds incredible loyalty through Prime. You pay your fee, you get free shipping, plus movies, music, books. It locks you into their ecosystem.
Keeps you shopping.
Exactly. But in China, the e-commerce scene is just different. It's much more fragmented. People use multiple apps all the time. Taobao, Tmall, JD.com, Pinduoduo.
And they jump between them.
Constantly. They're incredibly savvy about finding the best deals, using coupons. It's a huge part of the culture. Think about Singles Day, 11/11. The sales are astronomical, driven by these massive coupon campaigns.
Yeah, the article mentioned Alibaba hit something like $264 billion RMB just on that one day. So that deep loyalty Amazon relies on elsewhere just wasn't taking root.
It seems not. The behavior was more about hunting for deals across platforms. Amazon's model wasn't really built for that kind of constant promotional battleground.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole logistics piece.
Ah, right. Delivery. Crucial in e-commerce. How did they compare?
So Alibaba is mostly a platform. They connect buyers and sellers. And while they outsource delivery, they've invested heavily in logistics tech, like their Cainiao network, to make the whole system work better.
Okay.
JD.com is different. They control almost everything end to end. They have their own inventory and this massive network of like 130 super automated logistics centers. That lets them promise next day, sometimes even same day, delivery across huge parts of China.
And Amazon.
They had some logistics centers, maybe 17 compared to JD's 130, or even Amazon's own 70 in the US. But they relied more on outside delivery partners. Their infrastructure just wasn't as built out or integrated as the local players.
Meaning they couldn't reliably offer that super fast delivery everyone expected.
Exactly, which is a major competitive disadvantage. So ultimately, Amazon's reluctance, or maybe inability, to really tailor its global strategy, both the loyalty model and logistics, to China's unique market, led to them pulling back from direct e-commerce. They're more focused on cross-border sales and cloud services now.
Another case of a global template not quite fitting the local reality. Okay, let's talk Carrefour. A different beast, traditional supermarkets. They were actually early movers in China, weren't they?
They were, yeah. Carrefour, or Jiaofu as it's known there, arrived back in 1996. Kind of a pioneer in that big hypermarket format.
And people liked them initially.
Oh yeah, especially the growing middle class, the ADA again. Those big weekend shopping trips out to the suburbs to stock up at Carrefour were quite popular for a time.
What was their edge back then?
The article highlights a couple of things. One was direct sourcing, getting goods straight from manufacturers, which meant better prices and quality, theoretically. And crucially, they gave their local store managers a lot of freedom.
Freedom to do what?
To tailor the products, choose what to stock based on local tastes. So you get this interesting mix of French stuff and Chinese stuff that was unique to each area. That really worked well early on.
But then things changed, like with Forever 21.
Exactly. The 2010s hit, smartphones took off, e-commerce exploded, people's shopping habits shifted, fewer big weekly trips.
More frequent, smaller buys, closer to home or online.
Precisely. Popping into a local supermarket, a convenience store, or just ordering groceries online became much more common. And Carrefour's big out-of-town hypermarkets started feeling less relevant. Sales began to slide.
Did they try to adapt?
They did, but maybe too little, too late. Around 2015, they started building centralized procurement centers, trying to get more efficient, like their local rivals Youngwee, RT Mart, even Walmart.
But there was a catch.
Yeah. At the same time, control seemed to shift away from those local store managers and more towards headquarters. So they lost some of that unique local flavor that had been a strength.
Yeah.
Less autonomy on what products to stock, how to price them.
And the article also mentions something about leadership. Maybe not enough local voices at the top.
That's a really interesting point. It draws a parallel to Carrefour's struggles in Japan, where they also eventually pulled out. The suggestion is that maybe the French management, like in Japan, didn't fully grasp the local nuances or the speed needed to react.
A disconnect between HQ and the reality on the ground.
Potentially. They were also slower than competitors to jump on the trend of smaller urban stores. Convenience stores were booming, local players and Walmart were adapting, but Carrefour's smaller, easy Carrefour format didn't quite take off in the same way.
It's fascinating you mentioned Japan because the article contrasts this with Carrefour in Taiwan, same brand name, but a much more successful there, right?
Exactly. Over 100 stores in Taiwan, well integrated, often near transit hubs, quick to adapt. And the key difference: operational control is largely held by a Taiwanese company, Uni-President Enterprises Corporation.
The same company that successfully localized 7-Eleven and Starbucks in Taiwan.
The very same. It really highlights the power of local operational control and understanding. Meanwhile, back in mainland China, things got even tougher with the rise of new retail.
Right, like Alibaba's HaMaFresh stores starting around 2017. What was that about?
That was a game changer. Integrating online and offline, seamlessly ordering via app for 30-minute delivery, facial recognition payments in store, using data to optimize everything, it completely changed expectations for grocery shopping.
And Carrefour just couldn't keep up with that pace.
It seems they were struggling. That disconnect we talked about, maybe relying on reports from afar instead of having leadership deeply immersed in the day-to-day shifts, likely didn't help. Eventually, they sold their China operations to Xening.com.
For significantly less than competitors were valued at, the article noted.
A real cautionary tale about the cost of not adapting quickly enough in that market.
Okay, so another example of struggling to adapt. But now let's look at Starbucks. They're everywhere in China now, hugely successful. But it wasn't always smooth sailing.
Not entirely, no. They have a massive footprint now, thousands of stores. But their initial approach was also very much based on their global model.
Which led to some friction. I remember the controversy about the store in the Forbidden City.
Yeah, there were definitely cultural bumps.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, they were slow on some things too, like mobile payments, Alipay, WeChat Pay, which became ubiquitous incredibly fast in China. Starbucks was a bit late to fully embrace those.
They were still focused on their premium in-store experience, like the big reserve roasteries.
It seemed that way initially, a belief that the power of their global brand and the cafe experience itself would be enough. But then 2018 happened.
What happened in 2018?
They actually saw sales dip, about 2% down in Q2.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clearly linked to the rise of a very aggressive local competitor, Luckin Coffee.
Ah, Luckin. Their model was totally different, wasn't it? All about mobile ordering, quick pickup, delivery.
Exactly. Very little focus on the sit-down experience. It was built for speed and convenience, tapping directly into how many Chinese consumers actually preferred to get their coffee on the go, delivered to the office.
So Luckin exposed a weakness in Starbucks' more traditional model.
It really did. But here's where Starbucks stands out from the others we've discussed. They reacted quickly and decisively.
Oh, what did they do?
Big move was the partnership with Alibaba in 2019. That changed everything.
In what way?
Suddenly, they fully embraced Alipay. They launched their own delivery services. They enabled mobile ordering through their app. They even started using promotional coupons more actively. All the things Luckin was doing, basically.
They fought fire with fire, adapting to the local competitive reality.
Precisely. And it worked. Their growth picked back up.
Yep.
They even started putting Starbucks counters inside Alibaba's Hema Fresh supermarkets, fully leaning into that new retail integration.
That's a major pivot from being slow on mobile payments just a year or two earlier.
A huge pivot. And it showed a willingness to learn and adapt that perhaps the others lacked or acted on too late. There were even comments from Howard Schultz about potentially taking lessons from China, like delivery, to other global markets.
Wow, so China actually started influencing their global strategy.
It's just a shift, yeah, a move towards greater flexibility and recognizing that innovation doesn't just flow one way from global HQ.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together, Forever 21, Amazon, Carrefour, Starbucks, what are the big takeaways here? What separates the successes from the failures in China?
Well, the common theme in the failures is definitely this lag, a failure to adapt quickly enough to the sheer speed of change in China. Often it seems because they were too attached to their existing global strategies.
Trying to impose a global model where it didn't quite fit.
Right, so the absolute necessity is genuine localization. And that means really understanding local tastes, yes, but also fully embracing the local tech landscape, mobile payments, the way e-commerce works, the whole new retail fusion of online and offline, and being willing to change your fundamental business model if needed.
And how do companies actually achieve that deep localization?
The article suggests two key things that successful companies do. One, hire, trust, and truly empower local managers who get the market. Like that Ito Yokado example in Chengdu, thriving because of strong local leadership.
Makes sense. You need people on the ground calling the shots.
Absolutely. And two, form strategic partnerships with strong local companies, like Starbucks did with Alibaba. That gives you instant access to infrastructure, technology, and local know-how.
So it's either build deep local expertise internally or partner strategically,
Yep.
or both.
Exactly. The companies that survive and thrive seem to nail at least one, if not both, of those strategies.
It really underscores how demanding but also how innovative the Chinese market is. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, let me leave you, our listener, with a final thought. We've seen how fast things change in China, forcing even global giants to adapt or fail. Thinking more broadly now, beyond just China, what does this tell us about staying competitive anywhere in today's world? What are the absolute must-haves for any business to stay agile and avoid becoming tomorrow's cautionary tale? And does this signal a future where maybe global business has to become much more hyper-local everywhere, something to chew on?